about 16 or 17 years old and I was contemplating my career in music, I listened to a record made by Julian Bream on the lute called Music from the Royal Courts of Europe. And I remember hearing these first few notes on this record. I was completely smitten, and the sound of the lute was in my ear, and then that's shaped my life since then, is this actual hearing the music of the Royal Courts of Europe and the sound of the lute in one record. And that idea stuck with me, and I thought, well, I can do a concert just like that.
Our concert is titled Music from the Royal Courts of Europe, and it's taking place at Botegga in Kelowna on Saturday, November 17th at 7:30 in the evening. Tickets are available at Mosaic Books, online at Brown Paper Tickets, and they will be, of course, available at the door. The price is $25 for adults and $20 for students and seniors.
We're playing music by Bach and Weiss and Couperin, music of the 18th century on period instruments, the lute and the harpsichord.
The harpsichord is a keyboard instrument which was widely in use before our modern piano. The main difference in the sound production is that the harpsichord plucks the string rather than striking it, as the piano does. For this reason, the sound has a very bright attack, and the whole instrument builds up a lot of resonance as I play it. This is one of the things I listen to carefully when I'm playing, and of course when I move my harpsichord to a different location for a concert, that all changes. So one of the things I have to do very quickly is to get used to a new room acoustic when we play a concert.
I guess that's one of the reasons why we chose to play the concert at Botegga, because we went there and we visited it, and they've really built an amazing architectural example of something like what an 18th century salon would have been. They would play these concerts in a room that would hold no more than 40 or 50 people, with a very high ceiling and a lot of hard surfaces. So right away we felt as if that was just the perfect place to hear music of a plucked instrument like the harpsichord or the lute, because the problem with all plucked instruments is that the sound immediately dies away. That can be a virtue as well as a challenge to the artist, really, to make it seem like it's a singing instrument, or that it speaks almost a language of its own. But it's not like a sustaining instrument, like a bowed instrument or a wind instrument. It's got its own problems in that way, as you say, with the resonance. So that, you know, hearing a good reverberation in a room like that is really a rare thing, because most of our rooms now that we play in are, unless we amplify, of course, are covered with soft carpets and fabric everywhere, and we don't have these kind of resonant environments that are used for public performance very much anymore. That's more of a European thing. So that kind of fits with the theme of the concert.
I remember as a young student finding out that the music of Bach was not written for the piano, which I was studying at the time. I really liked Bach's music, and this came as kind of a shock to me. But that was my first exposure to the idea of the harpsichord, and being able to play the harpsichord to suit this music in a way that modern instruments really do not. So I'm happy to be playing my French double manual harpsichord in this concert. It would have been a great luxury item at the time, as it is now. And I feel that the music we've chosen really shows off our instruments to their best advantage. This is a copy of a French double manual harpsichord built in 1769 by Pascal Tasquin, and the original of this instrument now resides in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And the original is very pretty. The case is black with a bright red interior, and there's a lot of gold chinoiserie, so Chinese people and scenes painted along the sides of the case. The instrument has two sets of strings tuned in unison. Those are called the 8-foot, and it also has a set of strings tuned an octave higher, which is called the 4-foot. This particular instrument is very special in that it has a rank of leather plectra as well as the quill, and I use that for very expressive pieces. I'll be using it for a piece by Couperin in this concert, which translates as the divine little dog or the playful lovers.
Well, the thing about my particular field is that it's not that common for somebody who plays instruments to make them. You wouldn't expect the pianist to make the piano, but in the case of 18th century instruments and some earlier ones, it was not uncommon for the lute maker to be the player as well. So in my case, I make lutes and I make guitars as well, and the instrument that I chose I'm using two instruments for this concert. One of them is modeled on an instrument by a man named Johann Christian Hoffmann, who was a German lute maker in Leipzig during Bach's lifetime. And in fact, he made many of the violins and the special cellos and other instruments, stringed instruments, that Bach liked to use for some of his most abstruse compositions, like the famous Brandenburg concertos or the cello suites involved. Very unusual instruments like cellos with 5 strings and special violas with sympathetic strings. The lutes that he made are really quite famous. There's only 3 or 4 of them in existence at the moment, and I have a drawing of one of them, and I made more or less a copy of it. And my experiment is to try to play the compositions written almost exactly at the same time as that instrument to discover how those two things fit together. That's my kind of special interest in early music. I think of early music as anything that predates the electric era, which would be about the 1930s, when music was first recorded electrically, sold in electric recordings, amplified, and played over loudspeakers. Almost any acoustical instrument could be regarded as really, in a way, a throwback to the past, because almost everything that we have now is transmitted through digital media. For someone to hear a really well-made, beautifully manufactured or handmade instrument played by a skilled player live in an unamplified is it's a very rare occurrence now. So to me that's a special occasion.
Well, it is, and there's such a wealth of music available to us now through electronic media that it becomes almost too much for us to deal with all of this information. So I hope by focusing on a few specifics that we can give an example of the sort of thing that's available. And it's really fun. We have a lot of fun playing this music.
Well, we do. It takes a lot of preparation, and
yeah.
You have to work at it every day for some hours.
Oh, yes.
But it really is a great pleasure to play in public. I always feel that that's the most important thing for music, is that it be heard.
Yes, and I go to great lengths, as I know you do, to make sure, since we have one shot, we want to make it a good one.
It's got to be right the first time.
We're also very happy to be exhibiting the paintings of Kyle Poirier at our concert, and we know that our audience will enjoy seeing these beautiful works of art as well as hearing beautiful music. Well, I know Kyle did one of a divine little dog, so I want to have that one well visible.
Right in the center.
Yes.